right. All right, and we are finally live. My name is Paulo Arias. I am with International Relocation Partner, and with me, Deborah Duff, expat coach. And this is a live that we're going to be doing Facebook Live, YouTube Live, and connecting with the expat community. We're trying to do this every week and bringing to you interesting topics. This week we have a very particular topic, which is art gringo or Americans or North American customers, difficult customers. I like to say how it is. You guys are pain in the behind. And before I go into the topic, and I know it sounds silly or it may be even controversial, I'd like to introduce or let Deborah introduce herself and let us know a little bit about what she does because she's got a lot of insight. I do believe she's got a lot of insight working with the North American community in Portugal.
Well, thank you, Pablo. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm an expat coach. I'm an intercultural psychologist. I'm also a seasoned expat. I've probably lived more time away from my original country than in my original country. I'm originally from Brazil. I've lived in the US, in Spain, in France, in the UK. In Portugal. This is my second time, and in Brazil, of course. So I've been around a lot. And after my first time in Portugal, that wasn't very good. I had a really hard time. And then I left and came back 8 years after that. This was 2013. I realized I needed to understand what had gone wrong. And I left my corporate career in marketing and I delved into the world of intercultural psychology. So I got a master's in intercultural psychology and it blew my mind. I had no idea this was a thing. And it really helped me. And by helping me, I felt that I could actually help other people because I knew I wasn't alone in this. And ever since getting my master's and getting my certifications and a lot of, things under my belt, I've been working with people since 2016. I work one-to-one. I have group coaching programs. I have online courses, workshops, you name it. I have lots of stuff for every stage of the move, from making the decision until feeling at home, from A to Z.
And it's very interesting, and this is why I do believe we connect this much, is because I am the guy that people call before they move to Portugal. People send me an email and they call me, "Hey, Paulo, I'm moving to Lisbon." And they also call me 6 months later. I didn't make it. It didn't work. And I mean, it sounds like a joke, but it happens at least once a month. It's not like it's very often.
That makes me so sad.
It is sad. It is. And this started happening to me many years ago. And I did realize that first is not right. People is making big investments. I mean, international move, $8,000, $10,000, all the way up to who knows. And they call me, "Hey, I need a container to move back. I'm moving back to Canada. I'm moving back to, whatever it might be. I'm moving back to New York." And I get old, and then I ask why. "Hey, can you tell me why?" I'm going into like trying to understand. And they give me all kinds of reasons. One of them is very common. My wife couldn't make it. We made it as a couple. We want to be together. I'm moving back. So it's like sentimental reasons. Another one is health. The health service here. I cannot get the things I need for my health. There are many different reasons, but one of the most important ones, I do believe, is the intercultural shock. And this brings me to our topic. What do we think? What do you think from the American consumer? Is the American customer different, hard to deal with?
Okay, that's an interesting
I'm gonna put you
question.
on the spot. I'm gonna put you on the spot.
Yeah, that's an interesting question because, like building on what you're saying, that you get that call once a month. When I started my business, and I'll answer your question in just a second. I just want to paint a brush on that
This
because
is
that
gonna be
was
good.
I found that amazing when I did my research. Even to see if I even had a business at all, if I was the only one suffering, right?
Uh-huh.
And I came across a report from the HR Review,
Okay.
a report from PricewaterhouseCoopers,
Uh-huh.
and it said that up to 40% of international relocations in a corporate setting fail.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And in that context, failure means that people, after a while and before the end of their tenure, the end of their assignment, they can't take it anymore, they go back. And it's quite in line with what you're saying, because about 70% of those cases, according to this report, has to do with family members not adjusting.
Mm.
So this is very common, and not just in our anecdotal day-to-day life, but there's hard data that supports that. And for the company who was investing in an international assignment, each failure in this context, on average, costs the company $300,000.
That's amazing. That's crazy.
Now, when we're doing this on our own, that's our money. That's
crazy.
our money that we're wasting. And it's mind-boggling to me that you prepare everything else, but you don't prepare for the mental aspects. Now, I'm going to address your question about if the Gringo client is difficult. I wouldn't say difficult, but I'm a trained professional because I'm trained to deal with cultural differences. Okay, so and I'm a gringa, but down inside. I lived in the States for 11 years.
Yeah, me too.
So I don't feel like the American or the North American customer that different from me. So I don't find it, because I know where they're coming from. You know what I mean? I know what their reference point is. Now, it's interesting you say that, because many of my clients, they come to Portugal, and after the honeymoon, they start complaining. This is slow. It takes forever, and nothing works, and bureaucracy, and blah blah blah, and blah blah. I said, guys, look, what were one of the reasons that you decided to move to Portugal? And I say Portugal, but it could be any other country, because when you're going through the cultural shock phase, you will find reasons to complain because you're going through cultural shock. It doesn't matter where you are. And and I work with people from all over the world, not only Portugal, but many of my clients are here, and they say, yeah, I wanted a relaxed environment. I wanted to take it easy. Well, it's like, it's not only for you, it's a relaxed environment for everyone. So you can't have, a double standard. Either it's relaxed or it's not relaxed.
Fast pace.
Yeah. So it's like, it's you either take it or leave it. And you decide if you want to complain and be miserable, or if you want to focus on things that you can control, which is your attitude. Now, Granted, some people take that very well. Some people don't like it. And many people are not fit to move. Period. They're not fit to change environments.
I would say I have a couple of things to say. You mentioned the Pricewaterhouse report. And I know, and I used to just handle corporate customers. That was my background. I now focus more on the people who is doing it, because you want to retire, so you're doing it yourself.
Yeah.
In the setting of a corporate environment, these people get a lot of different tools and support. They get a team to work with. They get, other families that are going through that transition, maybe from other countries. They get a lot of support, and they still fail, and they get everything. Everything is being paid for them.
They
even the
get
education of
perks,
the
they
kids and
get
many things.
raises, they get financial help, and even more, Pablo, they know the company they're going to work for.
Yeah,
Usually it's a promotion or a good challenge. It's almost never like something bad. It's usually something for their enhancement professionally. So it's all good, but yet,
but the private customer who is doing it by, is their own savings. You have many other things against you, and even
yes.
with that, a lot of people do not make it. And I want to address, I lived in the US, and I understand, and I live this culture. I mean, this cultural shock.
Mhm.
Somehow I spent, almost a decade in the US, not even a big town, a small town. When I moved back, I'm in Costa Rica. When I moved back to Costa Rica, everything was like, I don't like this. What am I doing here? I don't like the
Yeah,
bosses. I don't like this. I was just complaining about
totally
everything.
get it. Yeah.
And it took me a little while to readjust to many aspects. And I do think it's because when you're living in a more developed country with a lot more business and a lot more competition, you're used to a lot more people competing for your business. That's one of them. So you go on,
Mhm,
you get three quotes, and you have people competing against hundreds of other service providers. And so
mhm.
it's kind of like really fast. You send somebody an email, they reply to you immediately, and they apply technology, and there is a lot more funds maybe to implement this technology or have a support team uh, to offer any service. When you're moving to a small town in Portugal or in a small town in Costa Rica, little Costa Rica, um, oftentimes who owns the business, who is the construction company that is the trustworthy construction company or the trustworthy real estate agent. It's maybe it looks like a small business, like one of those
Yeah,
mom and pop business that perhaps only work business hours, that uh, they're not going to get back to you at 9 p.m. They may not get
yeah,
back to you at any time. Maybe they are, maybe they don't. But in the US, where you have this more of, I guess, everything is money. Like everything
yeah,
is money everywhere. But in the US, it's like more like it's
yeah,
making another sale. Is the capitalism is
yeah,
huge. You want to make
yeah.
you want to change cars every other year,
Yeah,
brand
I
new
totally get
cars.
it. Yeah. Well, I'm trained to look at it from a different perspective. And it's interesting because I have the business perspective because I'm a business person. I have been. I've worked in marketing all my life. And now I look at this perspective. And what you're saying, translating it into
Yeah, yeah.
intercultural psychology terms, or so to speak, and has also a lot to do with communication. So there are different cultures have different values.
Yeah.
Okay. And what you're describing seems to be something like the one of the values of some countries, US included in this group, is transactional.
Yeah.
So um, the encounters, even the commercial encounters that you're describing, they're merely transactional. You're not there to make friends. You're there to close a sale. Boom, that's it.
Yeah.
Now,
Exactly.
in other contexts, in other cultures, like I would imagine, from what I know, Costa Rica, Latin America, I know
Latin America.
Latin America a little bit, being Brazilian, having traveled a little bit, Southern Europe, and other. It's not, and even Eastern countries, like more Asian countries. I hate to generalize like this, but anyway, for the sake of brevity, these are more relationship cultures.
You nail it.
So, yes, you want to close the deal because you need to pay the bills at the end of the month. But it's not only about closing the transaction. So, this is something that I get a lot from my clients here especially in Portugal, that for example, they complain that people don't answer emails, right? They send emails, people don't answer. And I say, guys, this is a relationship based country. If you want to get something done, you pick up the phone and you talk to the person, because they have 500 emails and they're going to prioritize the ones that they have a relationship with.
Yeah.
You
Oftentimes.
like it, you don't like it, I don't care. It is what it is. So, and then I said, so instead of complaining that it's slow, that it's this, that it's that. Just know how to do things.
Yep.
Instead of you write the email and then one day later you pick up the phone. Hi, how are you doing? I sent you an email, da 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 da, and you complete the conversation. Or you pick up the phone and talk to the person. You talk to them and then you send an email. As we spoke, da 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 da. So you formalize it. But it's kind of like if you're doing things in a way and complaining about the result and you keep doing it that way, there's a quote, I think, from Einstein, like if you do the same things and expect
Yeah.
this different results, that's the concept. Well, just learn how to do it better. It's not that, I mean, it's not that difficult. You just have to understand it's a different way of dealing with the it's not about closing the transaction, it's about creating a relationship.
Our
And
countries, I'll say our countries, and this is including Portugal, we are very bureaucratic.
mm,
That's it, right? Spain,
yeah,
Portugal, Latin America. It's kind of like the same kind of line, blood, Latin
yeah,
type of very bureaucratic and very people oriented. Relationships are
yes,
big. Your friends, who you know, it's more than anything else.
yeah.
It happens to me. I do a lot of customs, and for years I've
Mhm.
been at the customs terminals, for my shipping business, and I will always, still to this date, prepare a sandwich once a month for everybody at the terminal. The forklift guy, the guy who cleans the floor,
Yep.
anybody gets a
It's all
sandwich
about the
once a month.
relationship. There you
Once a
go.
month.
You
I
know
spend
how to
maybe
do
I spend
it.
like I spend like maybe 40, at the most $40, and I give food to, like, I don't know, like 8, 10, 10 or 15 people. Cheese,
Yeah.
ham. When I
And
have
it's
an issue, whenever I have an issue at customs, I just have to text or make a phone call. Hey, I have an issue.
and
Can you
it's
guys
done.
help me? This is a friend of mine. My customer needs this.
Yep.
Ban, something that would have cost me weeks to fix because of the bureaucracy. It cost me maybe $40 in a sandwich once a month. So it's, and I
Yeah.
do the
And
same thing.
yeah. And so when we talk about difficult clients, I would say that a difficult person is a person who is not willing to adjust to a different way of doing things. Now, that's kind of a premises of if you want to live abroad and minimally adjust. I mean, granted, there are different ways of doing things and there's no right or wrong way. And there are people who just copy paste their life. They go from one place, they live in a gated community, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But they're not integrating it into the country, and there's no judgment here. There's nothing wrong with it. If you're happy, that's fine. But if you do have to interact with locals at some point, and you want to not suffer so much, because in Buddhism, I heard once, I think it's Buddhism, there's pain and there's suffering.
Yeah, it could be.
So you can, and you know, the more you complain, the more you want things to go exactly the way you want them to do, and that's actually a skill, and it's called cultural competence. Just like you have, there's another like line of study that calls it cultural intelligence. The same way you have emotional intelligence, have a cultural intelligence. It's a similar aspect. And and my bottom line for me is like, if my client is willing to stop, understand, can I do this better? Can I achieve better results? Can I be happier? And it's just a tweak here or there. You don't have to change who you are. It's just, adapting.
You have to be smart.
And again, this is hard to do sometimes, and clients are sometimes difficult because also when you're abroad, we feel very vulnerable. We're outside of our comfort zone. We don't know how to say things. We don't know how to fend for ourselves. So I've lived in the States. You know, Pablo, what it's like to go to the DMV. Don't tell me that it's not bureaucratic.
It is.
Because it is. The difference is that it's in English. Everyone knows what they're counting on. They know how it goes. But when you take that experience and put it in a different culture, a different language, a different timeline, it just creates another level of anxiety. That's why people complain that it's so much more bureaucratic. Yes, it might be a little bit more bureaucratic, but there's a lot of bureaucracy in other countries. We just don't feel it the same way because we're not a fish out of water. We're
Mhm.
in our element. That's the secret sauce. Once we figure that out, boom, it's easier. And then we're not so difficult customers anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I'm throwing this question out there. I think it's important. Is the customer, is the gringo customer difficult? I would say it's not as difficult. I mean, I'm used to dealing with North Americans for my business 14 years, and before that, I used to live in the U.S. But I do see how the local service provider is going to have challenges because it's just a totally different customer that has higher expectations sometimes. They used to maybe other ways of doing business. So that's going
Yeah,
to be a challenge.
yeah,
That's going to be a
yeah,
challenge. So if you, as someone new within the community, are you going to have challenge? You're going to have to find those service providers that adjust better to you, that are a better fit. So that doesn't even
yeah,
have to be with the cultural thing. So there are people out there that is been preparing their service to you. That's good. Or you have to adjust to the rest of the culture and speak, the language, and that way you may be able to connect better.
yeah, yeah,
Otherwise, you're gonna have a
yeah,
lot of issues.
yeah. And there are difficult people. I would say that, they're difficult people, and then there are people who not are difficult. I don't really like to put people into boxes because what is gringo? What is Costa Rican? What is Brazilian? What is Portuguese? Today we are so exposed to different influences. I mean, you can watch on Netflix content from anywhere in the world. Anywhere in the world. So how much does our culture really, what is the percentage of our culture in shaping the way we behave? I don't know. But and this is something that I really like. I mean, they're trends, they're cultural trends. Um, and there are many people who study this and like cultural kind of like big aspects, one of which that I talked about, like the transaction and the relationship. But in the end, does that really define who we are and how we act? Like I've heard people's like, oh, this nationality, whatever, they're rude. It's like, well, you perceive them as rude,
Yeah,
but they might not, in their mind, they might not being rude. I'll give you an example of my life. I speak Portuguese fluently. Portuguese is one of my first languages. And in Portugal, the way people greet one another every day is bom dia, which is buenos dias, good morning. If you go somewhere and you say, hi, hello, how are you? You might be thinking you're polite, but whoever is listening doesn't think you're polite.
oh, you don't know
So,
that.
yeah, yeah, that's a subtlety. So that's why I exist to help people with that. So what happens is that you might perceive they're being rude and you're like, but I just said hello. Why are they? Because you weren't polite the way they're used to being polite with one another. You have to
Wow.
say those certain words. And this is something unconscious. If you ask the person, they're not going to say, oh, she was rude because she didn't say good. No, they don't know. I mean, she just say, no, Deborah was rude to me. And I said, but I said hello. And then if you unravel it, if you unpeel it, you will get to the point. It was like, but you didn't say good morning. It's like, oh, okay. Now I got it. It's the good morning part. So once you master these little subtleties, boom, no
Yeah.
one's rude anymore. So it's all about perception, you see? It's all about perception. And sometimes people are rude unknowingly. It's just a jerk knee reaction to the way they want to be treated and they're not treating. And the other counterpart, like I thought I was being polite, but I
Mhm.
wasn't. But you see, I have
Right.
a trained eye and ear for this. This is what I do for a living. And I didn't know this until like maybe, I don't know, 8 years ago. It's when I really started learning about this that I figured out a lot of things that I had misinterpreted and suffered about. I could have easily
Yeah,
solved.
and there are many things. I mean, you're used to, this is one for Portugal. You're used to, you're at the table, you have dinner, and then you want to get the ticket. You want to pay for the
Mm,
for the ticket, and you just expect somebody to come to your table quickly and give you a ticket. But it may be, in Portugal, that that's not going to happen, or it's going to take a while, and things like
yeah,
that. There are many different things that, and then you
yeah,
get frustrated. Maybe you have to go. Maybe you're in a
yeah.
rush. And
Yeah. Yeah. This is something that I get a lot. Like you're in a restaurant and you want the bill and but shifting it to the person's perspective, because it's a relationship culture, it's not a transactional culture. You can stay, granted within reason, and they won't bother you. It's like it's the customer's choice to leave or not. They won't keep asking you all the time. And this was something and even subtlety. When in Brazil, for example, I find it very customer oriented. Like you go into a shop, people will ask you like, "Oh, do you need help? Do you want anything?" Blah blah blah. Kind of like be very on you. And in Portugal, I don't find this to be true. You go in a shop, they might ask you once or twice, but you're on your own. And in the beginning, I found that like, oh, they're
they don't
not,
care.
they don't care. Yeah, they don't
Yeah.
care. But then my our when we move abroad and we live abroad for a while, our baseline changes. Okay, so what we compare changes.
Yeah.
Our normal changes. So then I went back to Brazil for a few months on vacation, and I went into a shop, and of course, the lady came up. It's like, "Oh, and then I was looking at some clothes, and 5 minutes later, "Oh, do you need anything?" It's like, "Just leave me alone, leave me alone. I want to look at the." And I was like, "Oh, reverse cultural shock,"
Yeah.
because I was used to, and I say, wow, it's actually good for people not to be on me all the time. I have time to look at what I want, and then I go ask for whatever size I need or whatever.
I'll give
So
you. Go ahead. Go
it's
ahead.
just a question of getting used to it and understanding that and not getting so emotional and frustrated about it and having fun with it, with the differences.
Yeah, I have another example, kind of like that. This happens in Latin America. There's some countries that are like more of the Caribbean side, I will call it, like Dominican Republic, Panama, the islands in the Caribbean, Martinica. So it's the same in Panama. And I leave 2 weeks in Costa Rica, 2 weeks in Panama, and I'm like back and forth flying. I'm flying tomorrow. It's like
Mhm.
I'm in Costa Rica. So crazy, right? But for Costa Rica and Panama, we are next door. I could drive 6 hours and be in Panama and have a complete different way about this customer service. The customer service is completely different. If Latin America is about relationships, in Panama is like 10x. Like you really have to make friends,
Wow.
and this is like, so if you want to have any customer service, you really have to connect. So I have my personal own way to connect with people when I'm in Panama. I say hi at the gas station or at any store.
Uh-huh.
I say hi 3 times. It's a
That's so
protocol that
funny.
I created. Like I just thought about this. Maybe it's in a book or who knows, but whatever.
Yeah,
I say hi 3 times.
that's
Hey,
so
how
funny.
are you? And then I
Yeah.
wait 20 seconds. They're not going to look at you. Just wait for 15 seconds. Hey, nice day in it. And then the next thing, then you end up talking about the weather. Nice
Uh-huh.
weather. Oh, it's raining terrible. Oh, the traffic is horrible. But you make 3 lines, three
Three
sentences
connections. Yeah, that's interesting.
before the second one. They will look at you. You're gonna have the eye contact. The first one, you're not gonna get not even eye contact. They will be customer service people in the store or the gas station will be on their cell phone. The
Uh-huh.
second one, they will look at you. The third one, they will laugh and they will say, "You're not from here. You are from where? Are you from?" They always confuse me from. Are you from Colombia? Are you from where? No, I'm from Costa Rica. So we have similar accents in Spanish, and but that's the way I was able to connect with more people and get more things done. And I just, if I
Got
need
it.
to do something to get things done, I'll do it,
Yeah.
and it worked for me
Yeah.
perfectly. And
See, it's just a question of observing. When I lived, look, you were talking about how you guys share a border, and it's so different. Portugal and Spain, same thing. Not only it's a
wow,
different language to start with, but completely different way of doing things. I remember the first time I was in Barcelona. I was at a bar, and I really didn't speak Spanish very well back then. And I remember that I was looking to at a table nearby, and people seemed like they were at each other, like fighting. And I won't say the names they were talking in the conversation, which I then found it was just a conversation between friends. But all of these coarse words, and it was, and I was like, "What's going on there?" And this was normal. It was just their passionate way of talking. And when I lived in Barcelona, that became normal to me.
yeah,
Now, when you come to Portugal, people are a lot more, uh, compared to that in Spain, a lot more subdued, a lot quieter.
yeah,
Um,
mellow,
yeah, a lot more mellow. For example, in Spain, it's normal to have dinner at 10:30, 11 even, right?
yeah,
Sometimes, and it's just tapas and you don't actually eat a meal. In Portugal, dinner is 8:30, so it's a lot sooner. So it's a lot earlier. So it's really interesting how countries that share a border, and in this case they don't share a language, but in your case they even share a language, completely different. That's why we can't assume just because it's like it's from a similar piece of land they're gonna be the same. It's not. It's really not. And I like to look at this with humor. I like to look at it. The more you get sucked into the stress and the frustration and this and that, I think that the worst is the experience. I mean, just laugh it off and I mean, yeah, you said something, laugh it off, learn from it, observe and learn from it. And I can tell you that I observed the whole bon dia thing because in my point of view, I was being super polite, but I wasn't in the receiver's point of view. And, and the thing was that I only got to that conclusion because I think that I have a trained view of things. Had I looked at this 15 years ago when I lived here the first time, because I wasn't aware of these subtleties, I wouldn't have been able to solve this on my own. But I started observing. I was like, why is that? How is that person talking? How is the other person talking? How is the response? And I started kind of like almost scientific, analyzing it scientifically. And and then I was like, let me try it differently in different places to see if that makes a difference. And
no,
that's my conclusion. So,
it's
and
amazing. I mean, it is amazing, and we definitely need to learn more about our differences and adjust. I mean, you want to live abroad, you have to do this. You have to start learning about the culture. It's not just moving your things. It's not just buying a property. That's huge, but believe me, if you put the effort into learning the culture and adjusting and living outside of the bubble, your life will be a lot more enjoyable, and you're gonna make a lot more out of this transaction, and your family is gonna adjust better. So I
yeah,
think it's amazing. Our time is up.
absolutely.
It's been 33 minutes.
It's been so fun. It
It's
went so fast.
yeah, I mean, I'm excited about doing this weekly. There's a lot of things we can talk about. I've been thinking about dating in Portugal. Just the dating part has to be a nightmare. I don't know. It's a nightmare just to date
I don't
somebody
know.
in the
I've
same
been in the
language.
dating scene a while.
you know there's a lot of things that we can go and share, and also if people has questions, we'll entertain these questions, and and go, and go with our personal opinion about these things. I mean, we're not experts in many different fields, but in the future we hope to have, people that are experts on different things, immigration or real estate and many other things. But anyway, our time is up. Thank you very much. Give me high five. Excellent job. Bah. Ciao.
Fantastic. Great seeing